You got the little counting thing on there.
Welcome to Two Brothers and an Idea. It's episode 2 of the 3-part series, What is a Real Man? And for episode 2, we're going to be diving into the teen years through the early manhood years. And I'm here today with the good brother Teton of Teton Media Works. What's going on, brother?
Man, what's going on with you, man? It's always a pleasure to be here and have these kind of conversations. These conversations are always important, and it's really funny how all of this comes together from a business meeting for a creative conversation, and then we get into dialogue about life and how important life is. And so conversations like these, man, that turn into an assembly of thought and idea. Just help us be better men, share our experiences, and most importantly, learning and growing to be better and to do better.
Absolutely. I agree. When I think about how we came into this opportunity of the Two Brothers and an Idea podcast, the homie Teton and I, we go back many years, and we had
way back.
Way back, right? And we were able to relink up not too long ago, and we really started to sit down and conceptualize and build and create and look for opportunities to uplift fallen humanity, to uplift our people, to uplift melanation, to uplift all of mankind. So I'm really happy that the brother Teton is here with us today. And I think that he's got I think that the brother Teton's got a really, really unique perspective on the manhood process from childhood all the way up to elderly age. And, I would say that brothers like us are very fortunate and thankful to have had fatherly guidance, grandfatherly guidance, maybe even great grandfatherly guidance. And then we've also been able to serve as fathers. So we've been able to see all the different stages of manhood. We've been able to know them. And then we've also been able to be guided along them. And then we've also been able to guide others, So tell us a little bit about, what life was like for you in the teen years, stepping into manhood.
First of all, I really want to acknowledge first, before we even get into the conversation, acknowledge the fathers and the men that we don't speak about. Too often we talk about a lot of things what's wrong with the community, and we have a lot of negative dialogue, and we're repeating a lot of negative messages that are not true. So I want to salute those fathers who have been taking care of their children, who have been protecting their children, mind, body, and soul. I want to appreciate those fathers in the community who don't have biological children and who are continuing to be fathers to the children in their community, because we need to see more men not only talking about manhood, but demonstrating it. And so that's important to me. But for growing up for me as a you said, like a preteen, a teenager, a 12-year-old, my father, I think, was one of the most manly men, or he's that man from the 70s. He's that man from the late 60s going into the 70s and the 80s that modeled everything that you could think of when you talk about and think about strength, vision, wisdom. But there was this toughness about my father, and he wanted to make sure that he always raised strong men. He had a son, my brother Telon. And so a lot of times our father would take me and my brother to the zoo. He'll take us to museums. He would spend that kind of time, would drop us off at the library. There would be many times I didn't want to hear anything about Fort Monroe. I didn't want to hear anything about Civil War history. I didn't listen to every Malcolm X tape. I didn't listen to, And so my young age, I grew up very, exposed to a lot of different things. And so some will say in high school, Teton was militant. Some will say he was, the brother with the African thing, the little medallion around his neck talking about, power to the people. but that was a part of my process, right? And so at 12, 14, 15-year-old, you're still looking for an identity. So what am I saying, Ferdinand? No matter what you have around you, what you don't have around you, you're still searching for someone, something to connect with you so that you can update and exchange information. Does that make sense?
Sure. 100%.
And so, you know, growing up as a young fella, man, I made a lot of mistakes. I was very cunning. I got into a lot of small mischiefs. Had a good job. I started working since I was 14 years old. And so I had an opportunity to have a lot of responsibility. But, you know, at that age, you know, I would look back, and the only thing I can say to that 12-year-old Teton is what my father has said to the 40-something-year-old Teton and now 50-year-old Teton, that you have a date with destiny and you can't be late. It's just that simple. I can't keep looking about all the mistakes I made growing up, raising my children, to all of the shortcomings, and in comes the guilt, the hurt, the shame, you know. And so sometimes we just have to encourage ourselves, and it starts with really looking at who you really are and what your purpose is. And it's okay to be transparent. It's okay, right, to share stories, to help other young men understand that, yes, it may be a challenge being a father, but it's the greatest job that mankind could ever hold. Greatest position that we could ever have.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for that. Really, really appreciate you sharing, sharing a little bit about your background and how you came into manhood. You know, we're really blessed today. We've got a special guest coming in today. We got the brother Tyrone L from down there in Atlanta. This brother is a master numerologist. This brother is a father. This brother is a husband. This brother is doing his thing down there. Tiny houses. I mean, I could go down the list of all the great accomplishments from the brother Tyrone L. Absolutely. And he's doing some amazing things in the Moorish Science Temple of America. We got to give a salute to the MSTA, right? Okay. And we got our brother Tyrone L down there doing God's work down there in Atlanta, right? So we're going to go ahead and bring him on the stage.
All right.
What's going on, brother Tyrone L?
All right. Peace to the family. Peace to the family. How y'all doing?
We're doing well. Pleasure to meet you, sir.
Man. It's good to see y'all, brothers, man. I like what y'all doing in here, for real.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
So I got the topic, man. What is a real man? That's a dope topic. I'm gonna give you some background, me, and so I done a lot of things in my times, you know what I'm saying? And I was once into videography. I have a bachelor's in art, by the way. So I draw, paint. So, you know, I'm into art. So, you know, video is another medium of art expression. I was doing rap videos in Atlanta, and I started doing this DVD magazine. This is back when Smack was real big. Smack.
Wow. I remember that. I remember that.
Yeah, I still got these tapes. I got footage with Rick Ross, a whole bunch of people. My man is converting it now. We're going to drop it. This was from like 2004 to like 2008. We got BET Awards, mad footage. But the point is, we had this show called The Streets Are Talking, and we would ask questions. And the first question we asked is, what is a real man?
Wow.
So it's interesting that you guys would have this topic. And this was back in 2004. And it's
I seen that on YouTube.
Huh?
You have it on YouTube, right?
Yeah, I have a trailer is on YouTube right now.
Man,
yeah,
that's what's up.
That's crazy. I forgot about that. Yeah. So you can see Cujo Goody. We got Goody Mob on there. It's dope, man, for its time period. But this is a very dope question, interesting question. You know, we live in interesting times right now. So to even say a real man can be controversial to some, you know, when people are changing identities, having identity crisis. And the brother brought up earlier identity, and identity is so important. You know, as a Moorish American, you know, Noble Drew Ali came and gave our people an identity after Negro, Black, and colored were forced on them during the days of slavery. And I feel like the identity crisis is still the biggest issue we have today. You know, 1 minute we're Black, the next minute we're African American, then we're colored people, we're niggas, nigger, nigga. You know, we some of everything.
So let me ask you this, brother Tyrone.
Yeah.
How does that identity issue, how does that tie into young brothers maybe having trouble stepping into manhood from teen years to those young adult years?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Question.
And I'm,
Good
I'm gonna
question.
tell you,
Good
man,
question.
like when you don't have a culture, when you don't have an identity, anything goes. You're subject to anything, right? So if somebody pushes their or a made up or fictitious culture on a people with no culture and they embrace it and say, I'm a nigga and I get busy, meaning I'm in the streets, I'm shooting, I'm killing. If we glorify that, that becomes, hey, that's where it's at, right? Because we don't have an identity to give to our kids. We don't have anything to give them. They're going to take whatever is given to them. And unfortunately, you know, we do have a culture in America for our people. And I would say it's hip hop. And I want to give a shout out and a salute to the brother KRS-One for what he's doing with the whole Temple of Hip Hop, because he's taking it to a different level. But unfortunately, mainstream hip hop is controlled by certain people who don't look like us, who have a budget to push whatever music or agenda they want, and it's affecting our kids.
So can I jump on that wagon just a tad bit with you for a
sure.
second?
Yes, sir.
As I was listening, I think a lot of what you're saying has great value, right? And then to add to some of that knowledge, I think what is most important for us to understand and that we have to get back to the foundational things, the root of the problem. And even if we're there, we have to continue to be farmers in our homes first.
Yes.
Because a lot of times I find that pop culture, entertainment, all of these other wonderful things that we create places the father in the home. Does that make sense? Right. And so now, like what you're saying, we begin to pursue all these other spaces. And I want to make something very clear to all you statisticians and you transformers out there who like to keep data. I'm officially saying that it's not all of us. There are some great communities. Let me tell you something. There are some brothers and sisters all over the United States and all across every region you can imagine. They're doing some amazing stuff. And so I want to continue to encourage that also, Ferdinand, that we can't keep looking through these broken lenses and just assuming that the Chicken Little season is here and is here forever. We have to really understand that. So when I think about it,
exactly.
How do we transition our thinking, right, to be better men early before we get out here and have to come back and circle back and do it again?
Right.
Well, I definitely have an answer to that, but I want to hear what the brother Tyrone got to say to that one.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I love that question. And it's a saying that goes, it's easier to raise a successful man than to fix a broken one. And I say it starts obviously in the home, but every home structure is not stable, right? So what is the best way, the fastest way to mass produce or educate a large group of young people? The answer should be obvious. A school. We need our own school. Shout out to Dr. Umar. We need our own schools. And I started one in 2012 called the Busara Institute of Higher Learning. I started it at my house in my front yard. So, and I had 8 students. So it's no excuse. If everybody just got 8 people in their neighborhood who is a father, if you got a father in the neighborhood, he needs to step up. And that goes back to what is a real man. And it's about accountability. And it's about standing up on what you believe in. And it's about helping the community because you are a protector and a provider.
Absolutely. And that's what I wanted to kind of pull out even further, because I heard it in you, sir. Yeah. And so you spot on, and I appreciate that. Appreciate that very much.
For sure.
So brother Tyrone, you, from my understanding, you're a father, and you're raising a young man right now. Tell us a little bit about what that process has been like for you. Maybe if you're willing to tell us some of the successes and the improvements, maybe they can help us grow.
Yeah, for sure. Listen, man, being a parent is not easy. We don't get a manual. Well, there are some good books out here, but most of us don't read a book before. I didn't. and we learn trial and error,
Right.
and we make a
Right.
lot of mistakes. And I've made a ton of mistakes, but one thing that I have done consistently is I had a special time a week where I teach my children things that I feel is important, right? Because they're going to
Mhm.
be in school 7, 8 hours a day, and they're teaching them. I mean, you don't know what they're teaching them realistically because you're not there, right? You're at work, you're at home, you're doing what you need to do to take care of the family, but they're there all day without you, and you don't know what they're
Right.
taking in from the
Right.
school and their
Right.
peers,
Right.
right?
Right.
You have no idea. So you need a time set aside, even if it's just 30 minutes or an hour a week, where you can actually sit down and give them some things that you think is important. And one thing that I've focused on with my son is how to defend himself. I feel like self-defense is one of the most important things as a young man that you can learn. I had some dealing with bullies when I was young, and it really affected me. So I became very aggressive, and I started moving in ways that wasn't really, constructive. So after seeing that, I said, hey man, it's only right that you learn how to defend yourself and be comfortable in your own skin.
No, I
You know?
rock with that. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
And
That's good
I
stuff.
think that I think that that's super important. I do want to touch something real quick, and we can circle back to the self defense. So we were talking a little while ago about image, right? So the brother Teton and I, we talk often, away from the live streams and all that. And
Right.
one of the
Right.
things that we were
Right.
talking about was a current event that recently that recently was on Instagram. It was
Uh-huh.
concerning Lil Uzi Vert. He was on stage, and he had on a certain type of outfit, like red. He had
Okay.
some red blush. He had red fingernail paint on his
Mhm.
fingernails, and
Right.
when you hear about or see something like that from a pop culture or hip hop culture icon,
Uh-huh.
what does that say to you, about the image that young melanated teens, boys,
Right.
and young men are seeing, and how do you think that influences them?
Well, listen, man, I think we live in a very diverse world. And I think that, these entertainers, they do things for entertainment, right? We have to be very clear on who these people are, and it's a certain level of communication that they're given with these symbolisms. For instance, like painting your nails was done by ancient royal Egyptians, even men. So if you were a royalty in ancient Egypt, you would have painted fingernails as a man, right? So, I'm not saying necessarily there's anything wrong with that. It's about the context. But these people are doing things for a certain reason. And I think, we can't get too caught up in that, because even though that's pop culture, a lot of our young people are not following that. So it just, if you in the hood, they're not jacking that. I'm just telling you right now. So little Uzi Vert specifically, I mean, if you just go to Wikipedia and look him up, he doesn't he's like he doesn't identify with the sex. I forget what they call it, but he has like some type of belief where he doesn't believe in like sex, man or woman, like he's neither nor, right? So you got to understand who he is and what he represents. So I mean, that type of stuff has always been here, right? I'm not gonna get into the conspiracies and who's running and all. I don't want to get into that, but that stuff has been
Right. Right.
here,
Right.
man.
Right. Right. You know, yeah, I think we go too far up on the end on that. I totally agree with you on that. What's your thoughts on that, Fernand?
Well, I think that the brother's right and exact when it comes down to the ancient Cometians and the
Uh-huh.
ancient people, and how we did things at one point in time. But then in today's world, obviously, yes, there's context that's needed when we're talking about men doing that today in America. I think that a person, should be able to decorate themselves however they want, but when you choose to take the stage of a national platform, I think that there are some reservations that need to be had by each person, because they need to understand that they, no matter whether they want to be an ambassador or not, they are an ambassador on behalf of a group of people that they look like. You know, they are an ambassador on behalf of the sex that most people may perceive them to be, you know. So I look at those things. I mean, there's a lot of other thoughts that I have on it, right? But, I want to see what the homie Teton got to say.
And this is just only from my lens. And when I say my lens, I'm only speaking about what I understand, what I experience, and what I value the most. I think too often we look to the stars, lowercase, to find our identity, to measure how we should be and how we should exist, when all they're doing is looking down to us, trying to find out how to identify with themselves. So what I'm learning to do, and what I have learned to do, is say, okay, anything that should model anything coming from me should look like me, should walk like me, should talk like me, right? Should think like me, at least to some degree. So as a farmer, as we talked earlier, being able to plant seeds in your home, healthy seeds, not corruptible seeds, not seeds of discord, not seeds of hurt, brokenness, and pain, and lies, and the Chicken Little stories, but seeds of life. So I think as men, we have to understand that, yeah, it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to not reach the mark in this place, but to know that there's opportunity to continue to keep going, and not to stop. So our language, our communication, how we communicate strength, peace, love, and joy in our communities may sound good through the speaker, but are they really experiencing real manhood by demonstration in our communities? See, a lot of things we can do in secret, in public, and we can get on these platforms right here and talk about how wonderful it is to be a man. But the story is told through your wife's lens, through your children's lens, through the windows of your soul, through the windows of the hearts of the people that you interact with in your community. So I just think that the hypocrisy that we sit on these platforms and we sit on these TV tubes and these internets and we brag about what we should and should not do, we must demonstrate that in our lifestyle, in our speech. And it's simply to grow, to love. And so that's just my thought on it, because I'm tired of talking about what a celebrity's doing and what this rapper doing. Man, listen, I'm more concerned about what I need to do with my children, how I need to speak to my wife, what I need to do to make sure that my family is safe. I have no concern about little Uzi, little Boozy, and little Juicy. Now, that's just Teton. You know what I mean? That's just me. Right. Donnie did it, Donnie won't do it. You know what I mean?
That's right. They're going to do what they do.
They're going to do what they do. That's right.
But right. You know what? Let's dive into that, because I completely understand what you're saying, right? And I feel the exact same way. Mm-hmm. But how are our young boys, how are our teenagers all the way up to, early manhood, how are they consuming this information? How are they consuming entertainment, hip hop culture? Like, how are they consuming that? What are we seeing from their behavior that may be reflecting that? What do you see happening, Teton?
Well, I see a continued argument and a continued discussion, generation after generation after generation after generation. I mean, these were the same conversations that were happening during the love movement, the disco era. We can go down the line. So the pendulum has swung to one end, and now it's swinging to the other. So I think the responsibility is for each generation who is aware and conscious of what's happening to bridge the gap. Let's be honest. We failed each other seeking after the wrong things, right? And so when I go back, I think the best way is to start focusing on those communities that are thriving. They need a platform. Forget about what the blog's talking about. Let's start talking about some of these great things that are happening in Atlanta, that's happening in Dallas, it's happening all over the world. Give opportunities for community and families to connect with those great brothers and sisters that are actually doing the work. The problem is everybody want to be seen. doing the work.
You know, there was a video somebody or a post somebody made on one of the social media platforms not too long ago, and
Uh-huh.
they was like, you know, they showed this video of somebody helping a homeless person, and you could kind of tell by looking at the video that it was like it wasn't genuine. It wasn't really an authentic helping of that homeless person. It was too theatrical. Like you know, it wasn't like somebody was holding a video standing 20 feet away and they were like, you know, just getting one shot. It was live.
Right.
No, this had like camera angles and
you know.
but my point is, I think it aligns with what you said about people want to be seen doing that good work, instead of it just being a thing of, listen, I'm doing this for me. This is for my own fulfillment of doing right by mankind, by uplifting fallen humanity. You know, so Brother Tyrone, give us something concerning that.
Yeah. I mean, you're 100% right. Like I said, I started at my house, right, with no cameras. So, you know, I was doing the work. I've been doing the work. And this was in 2012. So, you know, I've been doing the work for a minute. And I did 7 years with the Fulton Juvenile Courts, helping out there in a mentorship program called Yes Atlanta, Youth Experiencing Success. So, you know, it's a lot of people that's out, and there was some good brothers in there that was with me. So it's a lot of people doing the work. Of course, mainstream is not going to show that. So it is a part of our duty, though, to put that out there. I don't have a problem with people recording it because it needs to be seen, because if it's not seen, it's almost like it doesn't exist, right? And we can't drown out these big boys and these big companies, but we can still make our mark with social media and, you know, things going viral and just inspiring others to try to do what they can in their communities.
Absolutely. You know, hey, Brother Tyrone, we really want to thank you for coming on to the show today and giving your measure on fatherhood. We really, really appreciate you. Everybody out there, y'all go to Tyrone.com right now. All right. Listen, this brother is a master numerologist. Y'all need to understand numbers is everything in our society. Well, many of the scholars called mathematics the language of the gods. And this is a master of numerology that y'all have sitting right here. Y'all get on down to Tyrone.com. Y'all check the brother out. You know, y'all hit the brother up, hit his social media, blow him up. Whatever he got on his website, y'all buy it, man. Spend some money with this brother, right? Y'all, thank you so much, brother, for coming in and sharing your knowledge with us.
For sure, man. It was a pleasure meeting you, brother. Are you in VA, brother?
I'm here in Dallas, Texas, but I travel back and forth. Yes, sir.
Say no more. We'll link.
Yes, sir.
All right, Brother Tyrone. Catch you later.
All right, peace.
So we really want to thank the Brother Tyrone for coming through, and we have reached our point in the show where we got a teachable moment. All right. So for our teachable moment today, we're going to dive into knowing thyself, right? And what we use to know thyself is technically the Akash, right? Our DNA. Right, the book, the real book of life, right? But the book that we're gonna.
Are you going that deep down in there, bro? Are you going that deep down in there?
I'm going deep, bro.
Now remember, comrade. You know, we two brothers. We're just an idea. What we calling ourselves?
Two brothers and an idea.
Two brothers and the idea.
You got it.
So, as you go through those records, I want to give shout out to you. And acknowledge you and all the hard work and the effort that you have done and modeled fatherhood, being able to take care of your children, being able to ride that wave of life. You and I know what we're talking about, and you being an example of what it is that you preach. And so this is why it's important for all of us to really get to a place of understanding that we must practice what we're talking about. We must be a demonstration. So I salute you, sir.
Gratitude. Thank you very much. So the lesson today, or let's say that the teachable moment, is to know thyself. And to truly know thyself, we have to become whole, right? We have to purify. We have to let go of things. And I love the analogy. I love the metaphor of the painting of Yeshua holding the big old teddy bear behind his back. and he's got his hand out to the little girl, like, "Hey, give me the small teddy bear. Give me this. It's missing eyes. It's got stuffing all out of it, coming out the sides and everything." And he's not gonna tell the little girl that he's got a much better teddy bear behind his back, right? But once she has faith, once she believes that Yeshua is going to take care of her, and she hands that teddy bear over, he's got the bigger, better teddy bear for her. And this is what happens for us when we go down the path of knowing thyself. Because once you
Yes.
know thyself, you start to trust thyself. And as you trust thyself, you create courage, and you start to align with virtues that help everything in your life become easier simply because you know thyself. But we have to let go of the ideals of the past. We have to let go of the suggestion that doesn't serve. All of those things have to be shedded like dead skin for us to move into this new realm of who we are. And in that space, there is no hurt, harm, or danger that can slow us down or stop us. In that space, we are formidable because we are now walking the path that we were designed to walk. Well, nobody can walk it better because it was designed for you, right? And you have to know thyself to achieve that, right? So y'all definitely be blessed, and I hope that everybody, all these young men, teens to early adulthood, and all of the other ages of men, step forward and focus on knowing thyself. You got it, Teton.
Now, we y'all listening to this soldier over here, y'all know what they do. Little army guy. Well, you know how we sailors break it down. We're real simple. I am Teton. I understand who I am. I know why I'm here, and I understand what my role and my position and my call and purpose is. So as we make reference to previous conversations and that moment of understanding that my good brother just broke down, we all have a date with destiny, and we cannot be late. That should be something to resonate in our ears and say, wait a minute, I got somewhere to go. I need to figure out how to get there. I got somewhere to be. I need to figure out what time I need to be there. Now, so there's nothing more to talk about. When you break those things down and make it very simple, you find that we make things a little too complicated when we listening to talking heads like myself and me and Ferdinand. We just some folks on the internet, but we know the internet is undefeated. So the idea is to ensure that you are representatives of what you say. You're representatives of how you live. You're representative of what you do, the activity of your hands. How do you put your hands to the community? Should reflect how you put your hands into your family, should reflect how you handle yourself and how you honor the Most High, how you honor your God, how you honor whatever you choose to believe in. I think these things are most important when you understand who you are. I can't be nobody being nobody else, but being who I am. What do you think about that, sir? Was that good enough for you?
I appreciate it. Thank you for the message.
That little monologue didn't require nothing more, right? But a pivot, right? So I think we had a good conversation, man. I think it was dope. Man.
Well,
I think it was dope.
Well,
I think it was
let's transition from the teachable moment of the day, and why don't you take us into the improvement of the day?
Oh well, I think one of the most important things I find that's improving me over and over again is don't feed the stray cats. It's real simple. A lot of times we have a heart and a desire to naturally and genuinely help people. Even when we don't have to give, we want to give. We want to be a support to family, friends who needs assistance and whatever it is they may need help at. But what I found was along that journey, you will find some stray cats in your path. And these are the cats that will show up in front of you. Flattery words. Oh, Teton, you so great. Ferdinand, you're the man. Meow, meow, rubbing up against you. Needing something, but there's no reciprocity. And then before you know it, you open up your home, your heart, your mind to these stray cats. You've given all your energy and all your faculty of time, and now they tore up your furniture. They done got feces all over the wall. So now when you put boundaries up in place and you have to say, look, I can't keep feeding you if you're not, there's no reciprocity happening here, and I'm not receiving anything in return. It's not that I'm helping you because I want something. But if you can't help yourself, then why am I helping you, right? And so you have to understand when these cats start showing up, they're going to be bearing gifts. But when you put boundaries in place to do what is right for your peace and your sanity, oh, it's your fault. I'm a failure. It's all your fault because I couldn't be successful. It's your fault because you held me accountable and you made me responsible. So that's some lessons I've always learned. These are things that are metaphorically true to me. I'm being very careful that I do not become the stray cat. Dig what I'm saying?
Facts. You know, I really appreciate that, and I think that can kind of segue us into back into the conversation about teens to early manhood. And you know, when I think back on my years as a teen, I had moved from California, from the Bay Area, to Hampton Roads, and I had lived in Virginia before, but it was many years prior to that, and I had lived in the country in Lancaster County, in Mollusk, right off of the Rappahannock River. You know, so coming to the 757, that was a culture shock. You know, being around, you know, so many melanated peoples.
Say it backwards. Say it in cursive.
You know, yeah, it was a culture shock. And you know, I learned a lot about Timberland boots. I learned a lot about hip hop. I learned a lot about Allen Iverson, you know, Michael Vick. You know, these were guys I didn't know anything about them prior to coming to Hampton, Virginia. And, you know, so they were major influencers, you know, in my life. But then also like what I saw in high school, you know, from some of the other people that I was students with. They were major influencers. Other things in my environment, major influencers. What type of influences are you noticing are helping teenager, young men step into early adulthood well? And what influences are you noticing are helping them not do that well?
Man, you know, I had to really pause to answer that question because there was a time when I spoke hard about certain things as a father, a young father, and was very dogmatic about what I believed, what a man and what a boy and how all these things should work based on the data that was downloaded from the Windows 95, right? And into me. So now I have this data that my father collected from many different hard drives. Get what I'm saying? 100%. He lacked a point of reference. Okay. But he didn't stop there. He had cousins, he had uncles. He found out, he connected with multiple regions of family. Now he has to raise these two sons, right? With the little bit of data that he has. So you're talking about what? 15 megabytes, floppy disk, hard disk, you choose. So now, I grow up thinking that what I've learned, I'm adding to it from religious leaders, community leaders, and whatever else. And I'm raising my son, and I'm finding out that a 6-year-old little boy is only 6. It's okay to kiss that 6-year-old boy on the forehead, right? It's okay to hug that young man. As a matter of fact, it's okay for that 6-year-old little boy to fall down and cry, man. Download new information, upload your data, right? Because we make the mistake of duplicating or mirroring our parents' fears, our parents' pain, our parents' lack of information, thinking that it's information, and it leads to destruction. So now what does it do? What does it do? The effects. It affects the way you raise your boys, how you talk to your children, how you communicate tone, frequencies, all this energy that this so-called man should reflect. He should only reflect love, patience, kindness, meekness, long-suffering, gentleness. But instead, I am the man. You know, I pay the bill. But that little man needs you to hug on him. That little man needs you to love on him. He needs your time, not just your title. And so we fail to connect emotionally, mentally, and in a very unique way, be able to nurture these young men so they can experience the love of a father. Are you kidding me? There ain't nothing like the love of a father.
You know, it's a great point. There's a book called Metu Neter by Ra Nefer Amen. And one of the things that he went heavily into was how people think, right? So
Right.
How the Western mindset operates,
Right.
more left-brained, how the African mindset operates in the Bantu of unity. And I think that even though our background, our lineage is ultimately, let's say, Africanoid in a way, right? We have been operating in a Europeanized existence, in a Europeanized experience here in America. And I think that has a lot to do with some of the negatives that you pointed out in the behavior of some of our men. We have to get back to the Bantu.
But watch this.
Yes.
All right. As much as is what's wrong and all the negatives that we see in our communities and the things that we are experiencing, all you need is a willing heart and a made-up mind. There are young people, Ferdinand, and we know some of our friends that come from the most destructive neighborhoods, abusive backgrounds, and they have gone on to do what we call amazing things. But many of them go on to not have a peace of mind because they have not dealt with that guilt, that hurt, that shame or abuse or whatever thing that has happened that we mask with our talents and our gifts and our abilities. So I think, man, when you mention some of these things, the healing mechanism, being able to know that forgiveness is for me.
Yes, correct.
Me.
That part right there. Yes.
You understand? I can't keep carrying these bones of suffering, of all this pain, these Negro spirituals. And yes, I understand the history. I understand. I love it. But it's time for generational men like yourself and men that we interact with each and every day, right? Become the future. So
Absolutely.
that the heroes and the leaders in the home and the families and the communities, you can walk upon them on the sidewalk and you can see them and you look them in the eye and say, there is an example. There is a leader. There is somebody that looks like me and he ain't got no cape on and with no onesie on, flying around with no curl on his head. You understand what I'm saying? We have to stop imitating and mocking what we see in culture and start recreating. Building.
I think that how we achieve that is one of the ways is sitting amongst the fathers, as you were saying last episode, and then at the same time, I think that we've got to come to a reality that the chemical nature of each human being has to be looked at, or each young man has to be looked at. Like, what is he putting inside of his body? You know, what is he drinking on an everyday basis? And then we've also got to look at those broken lenses that you're talking about. We've got to repair those broken lenses, and the ones that and then we need to replace some. You know, some can be repaired, others need to be replaced. Then in some cases, we may need to construct brand new lenses. We may need to go and get some, the glass blowing and all that. We might need to get some glass blown into a whole nother type of lens to really be able to see effectively, based upon knowing thyself, based upon the true reality of universal consciousness. So I think that you're hitting on some deep points, and when I, because, and I want to reel us back in, because we're definitely focused on the teen years through early adulthood years.
Oh,
And
man.
when I think about men becoming young men becoming men, right?
Mhm.
All of those experiences for that first 18 years, that first 21 years,
Yeah.
obviously shapes
Yeah.
what that man is at 21 years
Right.
old or at 18 years
Right.
old. And what we are seeing in today's world is, there's a shift that's happening with, at least in America, if not the entire world. There's a shift that's happening in the way that we look at gender roles. There's a shift that's happening in the way that we look at chivalry, and the way that we look at caring and security for our women, and for our children. So I'm not saying that it should be shifting. What I'm saying is that it is. What are your thoughts on that?
On the shift.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, you asked me the wrong questions at the right time. Out of all respect for the context of the conversation,
Sure.
but if you really ask me truly what Teton thinks about the shift, I don't even know what you're talking about. 4 years ago, I've been in the wilderness. I've been about my business. I've been about healing. I've been about growing. I've been about learning. That's the shift. A transforming and renewing of my mind came from a conscious decision, just not through trial and tribulation. But again, remember what we said earlier, because you asked me the question, what do I feel about the shift?
Yes.
I feel, right? Here's what I feel.
Sure.
And we've heard this before. Greater is he, meaning me, great is he that is in me, that is in the world. This thing can shift all it want to. I know who I am. So I think we have to get to that place, not of comfort, but of courage and understanding and wisdom. There's some things we got to fix in our lives. We can be great all day long. We can aim for the stars all day long and be mixed with a whole bunch of confusions, my brother. But until you understand what it is to be tried and to be tested, sometimes we think success is a honey ride. It feels good.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I'm preaching to the choir. We ain't got nobody watching, and we just sitting here chopping it up like we always do. We're going to get it into the camera battery die. You understand what I'm saying? Because this is some real stuff. And we get caught up in communicating these hypotheticals, and we're speaking in the sky about these random ideas and clouds. When we start talking about real life experiences, things that you understand that I've gone through, things that I understand that you've gone through, life in general, real life experiences, were not just that you have fallen and failed, but you rose, that you overcame, that you learned. See, we got some trials and testimonies.
Right.
I don't hear nothing about what Lil Uzi doing. I don't care nothing about no Chris Brown. I don't care nothing about who wearing fingernail polish. I know who I am, right? So when I rub my hand, you don't expect to see no black or no green or no purple. That's my answer to that question in Stephen A. Smith style. I don't care nothing about what them folks talking about. Huh?
I can dig it, man. I can dig it 100%. I think that message right there will be really valuable for a lot of the younger brothers to hear.
Man.
But I do think that there's a certain amount of addressing that the brothers need to do with the younger brothers on
absolutely
on how to step up, because these young sisters who are in high school right now, middle school right now, some of them are early adults, younger adults right now. They want real men, like they want real men. And I would say that there's two real men sitting here right now, right? But we come from an era of people, an era of time where real men, it was a lot easier to produce them. In this day and age, it's a lot more challenging because of the stronghold that I would say media has on the people, and then it's heavily influencing individuals in these gender roles. And I'm not necessarily talking about LGBT at this point, right? Because I know sometimes when people say gender roles in America, you can get to that. I'm really talking about gender roles just in a heterosexual relationship. You know, even the gender roles within those relationships are heavily being affected right now. And, you know, women are becoming more capable in industry and academia, as well as, and then you have men shifting into maybe another type of realm or dimension.
Okay, so let's unpack it this way then. If I was to ask you, how did you become and get to the place that you are to this point since COVID? What was the things that you did to make your home a safe place? What were some of the things that you had to learn to be able to create a culture or cultivate an environment or develop an atmosphere where your children are not afraid of you when you come in, or whatever those things may be? What did you do what did you put into practice that I observed from afar to help you be a better husband or a better father? What did you do?
That's a great question. I sat
No
down
details, but give
and
us some framework. Give us some framework.
Right. Yeah. I sat down and I asked myself what it was that I really wanted out of life. And then I looked at what I had been accepting. I had been accepting second, and I had to force myself to understand that I had been choosing second, not that I had been receiving it, that I had been making the conscious decision to get second place. And when I changed that, when I changed my mind, and I made a like, you know what? Let me take it here, right? So I told you concerning the business opportunity that we've been talking about, the live opportunity we've been talking about. I said, listen, man, you know, I realized this and I realized that and I realized this. And I said, man, you know, these are major challenges. I say, you know, I'm doing this. This is happening. I'm moving forward. Right. But when I did that years ago, in the mindset of, you know what, I'm going to help my family do better. I'm going to achieve my dreams. I'm going to, all of these things, they're happening, right? There's no way around it. These things are happening. When I came to that mindset that I was doing this no matter what, everything that I needed fell into my lap, bro. The people that I needed, they just showed up in my life. The information that I needed, it showed up in my life. Everything I needed showed up in my life.
Where did you start? Where did you start?
I started with thought. I started with making a decision. You know, or I mean, we can go back further than that. We can, but that's the real answer is thought. And when I made that decision, I had work to do. Make no mistake about it. Like, obviously, I made that decision. Things fell into my lap. People, everything I needed fell into my lap. But I still had to take those things and say, all right, you going over here, you go over there. All right, this thing right here, you go there. I had to put it in a way to create this machine that worked.
Right.
And that took time, that took effort, and there was a lot of people looking at me like, "Yo, this mofo crazy right here. Like, that ain't gonna work." And I had to make it happen, you know. So it's a longer story than this, but obviously that's the condensed version.
I guess what I wanted to demonstrate was that we have to have real stories, tell real stories, right? These are real stories, real experiences that really can resonate with an audience of people, besides these stuff that we pull out of the stars, right?
Yeah.
When I listen to your story and I know a lot about your story, you had to, and even my story, there comes a time when you got to deal with you.
Yes, 100%. That's always the start of it.
Listen, and I always say this, and we talked about this in the previous conversation. You know, a lot of times we're looking for the problem. And we see the problem, but sometimes we're standing in front of mirrors, not realizing that problem that we keep seeing in that square that we so-called say we must stand in. I'm standing in my square. Sometimes that problem is you.
Yes.
See,
It
pride.
always
All of
is.
that.
It always is us.
Yeah.
The problem is always us.
Look, why we keep talking about, well, my wife, the home girl over here said, and she, the kids, brother, you.
Yes.
Start with you.
Yes. Absolutely. You know, there was a lot of growth that had to happen. When I stepped into my marriage, I was I was a bachelor at that time. You know, I hadn't had any children. I was still kind of new to understanding people, and I didn't really realize that I didn't truly understand people. You know, I had been living in an illusion for a very long time. You know, so all of those things I had to grow through them, and to step into true manhood. I want to say that I stepped into true manhood before I made it to Iraq in the early 2000s, you know, but I think that there's levels to all of this. So maybe I did step into true manhood because I went to a dangerous place and came back alive. But I also think that your manhood is tested by the responsibilities you choose to take on, you know. So yeah, the Army helped me step into a higher level of manhood, right? But then maybe college helped me step into a higher level of manhood.
Right.
Maybe
there are many
marriage
things,
did too.
Yeah, there are many
Yeah.
things that can assist and aid you in that. Just for me, and I'm adding to it, right? But I just believe that we have to create, and whatever that is, we have to continue creating healthy, strengthening, wise, strong, intuitive, creative, business-minded men, young men, starting between this community right here between our ears. Keep cultivating that internally within ourselves. We got to keep creating. Then we have
One
to
of the things
understand,
that
now that I've created something, what do I do with it? I got to now build it. What am I building it for? Whatever you, come on now, I can't give you the keys. I'm giving you my keys. What are your keys? You know what I'm saying? And then after I've created, built it, what am I doing to sustain it?
Yes, facts. So when we think about building something and we think about sustaining things, let's say that starts for the most part in early manhood. You know, one of the things that I want to give to the young men who may be listening is we got a lot of brothers out there who are really talented in music and in entertainment. But I would like the brothers out there to take the time to explore other avenues, explore other options. It doesn't mean that you cannot be a basketball, football, baseball player, a rapper, or a singer at all, a songwriter, a producer. Do it, right? Do it and do it well, right? But make sure you have something else to fall back on, because we have a lot of our brothers out here who are competing for, let's say, 150 jobs in an industry every year. We call that industry the NBA or the NFL. And but there's millions of them working from age 5, 6, 7 years old all the way up until they're dang near 18, 19 years old, you know, working hard for these positions. And could you imagine if they started at 5 years old focusing on learning astrophysics? Could you imagine if they started at 5 years old and they focused on mathematics? Or all I'm saying is I think that if the parents are listening, you know, wherever you see an interest, you know, wherever you see that your child interested in something, maybe they're interested in electromagnetics or they're interested in culinary arts or something like that. We need to support our children in those other ventures and not only in the ones that we think might get $1 million one day from a draft.
Yeah. You know, and I think the greatest support, the greatest protection is to protect our children and our family's mind. You know, a great idea sometimes comes from a confused or distorted mind, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes things doesn't project itself in a healthy way, and it doesn't always resemble what you're used to seeing. So there's a lot of diversity that's happening now in that younger generation when it comes to creativity and being able to express themselves through art, right?
Sure.
So anything that's in you, whatever is placed in your children, either by vibration, by communication, by visual interactions, whatever they have absorbed in that home, they're gonna later on project it. And so while we're performing and trying to be great generational Xers, we run out here with the fast life, Gucci belt, we run up and down doing what we're doing on the internet.
Gotta be fly.
Right. And we're so focused on all of the things that they're gandering in front of us. Our children are being sacrificed. And what I mean by being sacrificed, they're being neglected and being left to the devices that you still are hooked on, right? So when I talk about real manhood, fatherhood, all the kind of thing, we have to get back to being honest. Our children are being and understanding that it's not about being perfect, but if I'm not growing in peace, I'm not growing with a changed mind and a heart to desire to build a healthy, strong Teton first.
Yes.
How are you gonna try to lead the collective, the Black community, and your home is jacked up, your mind is jacked up, so everything that you create is still jacked up. It's cute, but it's jacked up. So what do we got to do? As David did, he yelled and rent out of his clothes, create in me a clean heart.
Everything you're saying is wise. Trust me, I agree with it. But we've got to consider the reality that we're expecting brothers to achieve what we just talked about, and they're being poisoned, literally,
but watch this,
by their food.
Watch this, because this is a conversation between two brothers. We ain't on Clubhouse, so I ain't got to mute my mic. We dialogue. You can.
Well, this is a very important piece, and I think it's blown off by a lot of people that
the eating habits.
The whole lifestyle period. Yeah. So definitely the eating habits. But if you want a group of people, or if you want some men or women or whoever to make quality decisions, that's a heavy ask if they're literally being poisoned and we don't know the extent of the poisoning to that person. So a person who may not be drinking as much water, they're going to have worse problems with their thinking than the next man or whatever, right? I just posted on my Facebook. I just posted a yes, I just I didn't just post. I posted hours ago or yesterday.
Okay.
But I posted a video where they showed a rat that was eating healthy and had a balanced diet, and then a rat that didn't eat and have a healthy diet, right? And they put both of them in a pool of milk or pool of water or whatever, right? The one that had a healthy diet, it found the little island, so it wouldn't drown. It found it real fast. The rat that was not eating healthy, that was not living healthy, that one took it took 30 seconds to find the island. Right. But the first rat that was healthy found the island in 2-3 seconds. Right. Well, this is a testament of how fight or flight works based upon if you are in toxicity or acidity, or if you are in a proper alkaline state, and it is connected directly to the way you think.
Now watch this. I agree with you. I think you're onto something. Check this out. I'm gonna add to it on a whole nother level because we're gonna put this puzzle together.
Sure.
So there's a doctor on YouTube, Japanese doctor, Dr. Hiromoro, Hirmo something. And he had a can of fermented rice. And each day when he filled it up with rice, he filled up these 3 cans of rice, these little jars of rice.
Yeah.
You know the story?
No, I'm listening. I'm done.
So for a whole month, he went up to that can and he said kind words to the jar of rice, went to the other jar of rice and said some corruptible words, just ugly words in Japanese that you can't even imagine. And then the other jar, right? He ignored it. He just ignored it. It didn't even exist. So you go back after 30 days, you start to see that the jar that he He gave great energy and he spoke well of. So we're talking about not only we're not just talking about just body that's poison and sickening. I'm talking about your words. What comes out of your mouth. You understand what I'm saying? Because I'm guilty of it. So in this demonstration, you saw the rice that he spoke ill of and wicked and angry of, the rice got dark.
Yeah.
It got really sick. The rice that he ignored was equally just as dark and sick as the rice that he spoke harshly of. But the rice that he brought forth fruit, spoke well of, internally in your mind. How do you speak about yourself first? It began to ferment and grow. So you on it. The body. Now, what's the next part? Let's land this plane. What's the next part?
Well, it's a minimum 6-pronged process, right? So anytime we're talking about the spirit, mind, and body working together to get the results that we're talking about getting, speaking to yourself with positivity and the law of suggestion being used in righteous ways. So those 6 are nutrition, water, sunlight, exercise, sleep, and goals.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So these things are,
give it to us again. What is it again?
Sure. Nutrition, water intake, sunlight intake to bare skin, exercise, sleep, and goals. Right. So these are the 6 keys of life. And when we live the 6 keys of life in balance, what you're talking about doing is much more realistic for many more people to do. I understand that you're probably like, well, it's just a choice to say positive things to yourself and all of that. And and it is a choice. But if a person is being influenced by poison, they will operate differently than what we think makes perfect sense. So I think that if we can encourage the people, if we can encourage our people, to live more holistically, I think that everything that you said that we should be doing internally in our homes, I think that you have more men who are able to achieve this in a sustainable way.
So here's what I want to be very clear of.
Sure.
And that's to the audience and to whoever finds this commentary and whatever you do with it. I'm only speaking about what I do, what I'm learning, right? What I'm continuously learning, the mistakes that I've made, the stories that I share. They're real stories. It's not a work of art. So I'm not trying to give nobody no code, no cheat code, no secret masterful way of being authentically you or any of that. I want to make sure that's clear because sometimes, Fernand, we be in these spaces and people get stuff messed up.
Yeah.
Right? You told me if I do A, B, C, D. No. This worked for Teton. This worked for Ferdinand. The idea is to sit and listen to one another, indulge, man, and build and share new ideas and add to your hardware so you can upgrade your software.
Facts, 100%. Let's go back for a second. Let's rewind. Right. So we were talking about the 6 keys of life. Now, in addition to the 6 keys of life, we also need to add fasting, and we need to add regression or reframing therapy, because every one of us is dealing with trauma from the past, and we need to take the time to visit that trauma, kind of like in a meditation.
Right, but unpack that just a little bit so people can understand what you're talking about.
Right. So in a meditation,
people down the hall.
Right. In a meditation, a person would want to be a fly on the wall in their experiences of trauma. Right. So that requires a lot of strength. That requires a lot of courage. And they're going to have to develop that prior to doing this so that they can stay in the room. They need to stay in the room throughout the whole trauma, be that fly on the wall, and they need to observe what's happening. And they need to really take a look at, what do I believe about myself now that I have experienced this trauma again? Because we create beliefs about ourselves during these traumas that we we deal with, especially during our childhood, especially if it's connected to parental guidance in some which way,
So
shape, or form.
what kind of beliefs do you think happen? I mean, what kind of beliefs you think happens when in the childhood in that process?
Fear, guilt, doubt, and disbelief. All kinds of variations of degrees of polarity in each of those four, and those are four very powerful uh, um, emotions, if you want to call them that, and or principles, and they can lead to lack, limitation, chaos, and disaster. But
Okay.
they also can be the equivalent of the pressure that's put on a piece of coal that eventually produces a diamond, right? So it really just depends on what a person mentally is built of, because when that pressure comes, they're either going to bust or they're going to become something formidable.
Now, what I find fascinating about you and I when we have these types of conversations, and actually we have these private conversations that we're making public. But what I find fascinating, very unique, is that your ability to share the science, to be able to find it in spirituality, in religion, and be able to take all of these things that sometimes we ignore, right? For example, if I go to the Bible and I speak those things as though they are not, as though they were, what am I speaking? If the Bible speaks about faith, if the Quran speaks about faith, so sometimes I think when we're having these back and forths and these learning experiences, and we really begin to see things for what they really are, it
Sure.
causes you now to sit up and say, wait a minute, I need to go back and upgrade my hard drive.
100%. Yes.
What's your thought on that?
Well,
or am I promoting false doctrine?
no, not even close. I think you're right in exact. I think you're on point. So I read a lot of books. I've read at least 500 books in the last 5 years. And I've read each of those books at least 20 to 30 times each. Now, what I'll say about the material is this. If I read the Kabbalion today, what I've noticed is if I read it again 90 days from now, there's pieces of it that I notice that I read before, but I see it differently, right?
Okay.
And that, in my opinion, is growth that's happening, right? So I think that we're all having that growth on a regular basis where we keep revisiting things and then we see them differently each time. Kind of like a person who decides, you know what, I live in Hampton Roads, or I live in, Philadelphia, I live wherever, right? But I decide I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to move. I'm going to try something different. I'm going to go live in Phoenix. I'm going to go live in Los Angeles, right? And then they're there for 3 to 5 years, and they're like, you know what? I'm going back home. I want to go see my friends. Let's hang out. It's a 10-year class reunion, whatever it is, right? But when they come back, even though there has been a little bit of construction changes, the way that they see the area is drastically different because of the growth,
Okay.
So in my gathering of knowledge throughout the years, I'm consistently growing in that knowledge. Every time I look at these doctrines over and over again, I see them differently every month or every year or whatever.
Okay, so now that we have, I guess, understand that all of this is experience based, it's opinion based, right? As we talk about these different topics, and I want to make sure that we include the people that are listening, right? How can people find out more about what you're doing concerning your brand and your coaching? Can you talk a little bit about some of that stuff? Because we can sit here and talk about this stuff all day long, man. But I just want to be able to give an opportunity for you to share some of the things that you have going on now that we've reconnected and really established this network of brothers. So yeah, what you got there, sir? I've been checking out your website.
I appreciate that. So I have a few different brands that I operate through. My main brand is Root Tribes, and that's roottribes.com. Obviously, y'all can see it at the bottom of the screen. And with Root Tribes, During the pandemic, my wife and I co-founded this business to help our people heal from chronic disease. There was a lot of people who were scared during the pandemic, and the emergency rooms were backed up.
Yeah.
Some emergency rooms, like, you was waiting 2-3 days to to get in there and get help. So during the pandemic and thereafter, I was traveling through various areas here in Virginia, and I was bringing the solutions to people and to
what
those who
what
needed
were
it.
those solutions?
Well, I do a lot of foraging. I teach foraging classes. So I go into the forest and I identify
Smoking bear.
various herbs. Yeah, I identify various herbs, and I know how to extract them, how to process them, and turn them into holistic supplements, or
Right.
medicine. And so this is one of the things that I've been primarily doing for since the pandemic. In addition to that, I'm rebuilding FHTII.com, and that platform.
What is what's FHT stand for? What's that?
Ferdinand H. Thomas II.
Okay, I just want to make sure. So because some people be asking in your inbox what that means.
Yeah, absolutely. So FHTII.com is a platform where I focused on helping our people have corporate structure building. A lot of our people have amazing ideas. We have some of the most creative souls on the planet. I'm so thankful for that. And a lot of our people didn't really understand how to create sustainable wealth, how to hold on to what they had, no matter what was going on in their life. So I was using that platform to teach on how to set up living trusts, setting up own nothing, control everything, corporate structure building with Wyoming LLCs and Nevada corporations and things of that nature, limited tax liability, and charging order protection and anonymity protections. So that
can I blow
platform,
my whistle? Can I blow a whistle?
Sure.
Yo, you have a lot of man. That's dope, man. I just wanted to have a little fun with this as well. You dropped a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience, a lot of information, and I think the beautiful thing about two brothers with an idea is that our ideas could be different, right?
Sure.
They could be uniquely different, operating uniquely similar for the common purpose, and that's to be a good man, a good father. I ain't trying to. We ain't trying to be great here, right? So, to develop a mindset with a good idea, you got to have a good system in place.
Absolutely.
So, what is that system for you? What is that system for you? Is it your heart? Is your mind? I mean, is it what is it, that system that keeps you developing and growing?
That system is that system is me understanding that for me as the man of my home to be effective at being a good man to my wife, and being effective at being a great father, and doing the things that align me with my dreams, it requires me to be balanced. It requires me to know myself, and it requires me to be true and to have integrity to thyself, understanding what self requires. And then it also requires me to give, because my cup is consistently overflowing, which I'm so thankful for. But when your cup is overflowing, you have a responsibility to give. And if you don't, then sometimes that, those blessings will be taken from you, and my blessings are consistently multiplying, and exponents on my blessings because of how I choose to give. So that's part of my machine, right? But the other part of my machine is understanding universal laws, so I dive deep on an everyday basis in my actual, in my actual, whoa, in my actual walk. I dive deep into my walk of the law of suggestion,
Yo.
not just my talk of it. I dive deep into my walk of the law of reciprocity. I dive deep into my walk of the law of sacrifice, and these bring blessings that billions of dollars couldn't even compare to.
You know, I'm having fun with you, and it's all in fun. But brother, you are a machine. Listen to me. If nobody ever told you ever before, you must know you have a SIM card in the back of your neck, or at least under your eyelids, brother. So what is so beautiful about it is that the information, whether one will agree or have different perspective, a different thought about it, the discipline and your ability to articulate and repeat, recite. I mean, I've watched you put things together, man, that I dreamed about, right? My final question to you, I should give you a nickname. We should call you Jimmy Neutron. How you like that one?
And I got so many nicknames.
Wait.
Jimmy Neutron is cool.
Look, master of the universe, huh? How about that one? You like that one?
Of the multiverse.
So my point is, man, I just wanted to really have fun with this conversation, celebrate you, give you your flowers. You know, I've known you since 2010, long time ago, and I just enjoy the conversation. This is not your typical Negro conversation. This is not your typical Hebrew conversation. This is not your typical Christian conversation, right? This is not your typical Judas or Buddhist or do all this stuff. We're just having a conversation.
Facts.
We got some ideas.
And this is what needed to happen. You know, one of the things that people see on my Facebook is that I'll write about topics that nobody really is, you know, people are scared to talk about. And, you know, those are like religion, race, socioeconomics, and much more, right? That all affect us in various types of ways, you know? So I think that this platform is going to help for having those conversations, because we need to talk about these things. Like, obviously we need to make decisions and we need to make moves, but we also need to come together and say, listen, how is this working for you? How is that working for your family? How is this working for your family? We need to get a collective viewpoint of how this is working, because at the end of the day, yes, each melanated family is operating independently, right? But we've got to live in the reality that we still are in this thing called group economics. As long as we are in this thing called group economics, if we've ever want to have a place at the table ever again, we've either got to do one of two things. We got to do one of two things. We've either got to take a place at the table, or we've got to go ahead and build a table.
Right. There you go. Build. And whatever you put in between that, you know, I'm proud of you, my brother. Proud of you, man. You need to engage your comments. You need to engage your audiences. We need to get people to engage this conversation. Are we coming back when? Next Thursday for more conversation about the same topic, something different? We want an opportunity to just have linear, non-linear thought with fresh ideas. I ain't trying to preach to the choir. I'm just trying to be in the choir. What's your thoughts, sir? How can we follow back up with this conversation on Thursday, and what will we be talking about?
So the beauty of this conversation, and thank everybody for who showed up to our conversation and who have engaged with us. Really appreciate y'all. This is episode 2 of a 3-part series of What is a Real Man. And the brother Teton and I, we've been diving deep into the different points of life where we step into manhood and the challenges, the solutions, the improvements, all the different ways that we can do better at manhood amongst melanation and amongst manhood amongst mankind, period. Right. But it's the 3-part series, and it's 2 brothers and an idea. Make no mistake about it. We're going to continue this every Tuesday and Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to be having this conversation. We're going to be bringing some valuable topics to the table. We're going to be bringing y'all some really, really credible, amazing speakers. We're going to bring them in here. They're going to give us some guidance You know, we're going to bring in some doctors. We're going to bring in some psychologists. We're going to bring in some people who can really help us heal from the times of the past that we've been dealing with that's been holding so many of us back. We're going to be able to walk together forward.
All right, Dr. Malcolm, Luther, Lil Jimmy, Fernand. Peace and love to you, sir. I think this was a great conversation. I have nothing but kind words and gratitude to you. I miss my comrades, my co-laborers, my videographers, my film guys. And shout out to all of you, man. Virginia, Virginia made me, you know what I mean? And so it's always a pleasure to reach back into the network. And sometimes you need that life. You know, we go through many things, and sometimes we need that energy pumped back in us so that we continue to get into this marathon, brother. So I'm excited.
Absolutely.
Thanks again for the invite and the opportunity to share Teton, share my story, your story. You know, I ain't speaking for nobody else but me.
Absolutely. And next episode, we're going to dive into the brother Teton and all the dope stuff that he's doing from Virginia to Texas, from Texas to China, from China to Germany, from Germany to England, and back across the Atlantic. The brother's doing some amazing things, right? So we're going to dive deep into that. Yeah. But this is episode 2, y'all. This is episode 2 of Two Brothers and an Idea. Really thankful for y'all showing up. Thursday, we're going to have our final episode of What is a Real Man? And for that episode, we're going to send out the link, and any of the brothers who would like to come on the show and they'd like to be interviewed, we're going to have a few questions, and we're going to ask every one of them the questions, and we want to get a wide angle view. We want to see what everyone is dealing with, what everybody is interested in giving in a measure to help us improve. We got to do this together, y'all. But this is episode 2. We done. My big bro Teton over here doing amazing things. Thanks for the love, man. Appreciate all of that. Thank you.
And shout out to my family in Detroit, man. I got some dope family, Fernand. I got cousins in the building communities, cousins.
Shout out Detroit.
Photographers that are all over Tennessee. Man, we need to bring more creators in this conversation, man, and expand our lenses so we can see the world a little differently, man, and not always the same. You know what I mean? So absolutely. Peace and love to you, my brother.